Ready, Jimmy? Check, check.
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, your perfect love is casting out fear. Even though I'm caught in the middle of the storms of this life, I won't turn back, I know you are near. I will fear no evil, for my God is with me. And if my God is with me, in whom then shall I fear? Whom then shall I fear? And oh no, never let go, through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, never let go, every high, every low. Oh no, you never let go, Lord, you never let go of me. And I can see a light that is coming for the heart that holds on. Glorious light beyond all compare. And there will be an end to these troubles, but until that day comes, we'll live to know you're here on the earth. And I will fear no evil, for my God is with me. And if my God is with me, then whom then shall I fear? Whom then shall I fear? And oh no, never let go, through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, never let go, every high, every low. No, you never let go, and Lord, you never let go of me. I can see a light that is coming for the heart that holds on. And there will be an end to these troubles, but until that day comes, still I will praise you, still I will praise you. I can see a light that is coming for the heart that holds on. And there will be an end to these troubles, but until that day comes, still I will praise you, still I will praise you. Singing, oh no, through the calm, through the storm. Oh no, and oh no, you never let go, Lord, you never let go. Sin, who knew no sin, that we might become His righteousness. He humbled himself and he carried the cross. Love is so amazing. Love so amazing. Jesus Messiah, the name above all names, and blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the rescue for sinners, the ransom from heaven, Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. His body the bread, his blood the wine, and broken and poured out all for love. The whole earth trembled and the veil was torn. And love so amazing, and love so amazing, yeah. Jesus Messiah, the name above all names, and blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the rescue for sinners, oh, the ransom from heaven, Jesus Messiah, and Lord of all. All our hope is in you. All our hope is in you. It's all our glory to you, God, and the light of the world. Jesus Messiah, the name above all names, the blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the rescue for sinners, oh, the ransom from heaven, and Jesus Messiah, and Lord of all, and Jesus Messiah, Lord of all.
All I got.
Thank you, Jacob. Well, good evening, everyone. Hey, good to see you. So one of the things I did not do as well last week as I'd hoped is for our friends who are with us on the internet. Good to see you. I'm going to do a better job of repeating your answers because we're going to do that, or we're going to have to get a boom mic and be like the Oprah show. We'll have to bring a mic around where everyone can hear you because our friends online can't hear you. That's the reason I'm wearing a mic on Wednesday night. So well, it is great to see you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And I just want you to know the most precious gift you give to the Lord and to us and to me is your time, because you don't get more of it. And so thanks for giving your time and being here tonight. It means the world to me. So I had a question on Sunday that I asked our Sunday school class that I want to I want to take just a second to contemplate. If you're new to us, you will soon realize that I may think a little differently. And I love to ask questions. Thinking is a good thing. And contemplating on the Lord is a good thing. And so Sunday, we looked at the Damascus Road experience with the would-be apostle Paul during his time being named Saul. And I'm looking around, and I think probably everyone in here knew the Damascus Road story from somewhere before. I don't know if there was anyone Sunday morning who had never heard Paul's call. But I want us to think about, just for a moment, because we run all the way, we run through this because the point of the story, obviously, is Saul's salvation. But have you ever stopped to think about where Saul was before he was saved? We look at him, we go, well, he was a bad guy. Well, I'm not saying what he did was right. But have you ever stopped to consider where he was mentally, spiritually, traditionally, relationally, that led him down the path he was on until God says, nope, you're not going that way anymore? Have you ever spent any time thinking about Saul's life before he became Paul? Sunday I made a comment about, let me look here, that I really liked. And it's really good that I like it because then, that's why I put it in. He was self-assured in his religion until he wasn't. And aren't we all that way at one time or another? Can I ask you this? Has there ever been a time in your life when you followed a different religion? A different person, a different process, a different than Jesus? Now, for those of you who are new, when I was a younger man, I actually started Jimmyism. This was about 18 to 22-ish, and it was very easy. Jimmyism was very easy. 1, you didn't have to get up on Sundays. 2, you didn't have to give money to anybody you didn't want to. 3 is if it was good for me, then it was good. I just took old-fashioned self-humanism and dolled it up. But it's amazing how we all can be comfortable and assured in our own religion until we're not. So I just want to send you maybe on a contemplative idea about Saul. If you recall, the children of Israel had been scattered over the known world by many things: wars and rumors of wars, economics, simple curiosities. But there were 2 primary things that scattered the Jews to a large extent. And it was God's judgment. God said, you will be my people and I will be your God. And we're going to show the world what it's like when we live and love together. The Hebrews were supposed to be the example of what that covenant relationship looked like. Well, the problem with the Hebrews is they're human beings. And, they get really hot on God, and then guess what? Just start cooling off, and they start looking over here, and they go, oh, well, look at what they have, and oh, look what they have. And it starts cooling off, and, just like Peter, their eyes begin to drift, and God says, don't do it. The prophets say, don't do it. And the Torah says, don't do it. Mama says, don't do it. But guess what? They do it. And God leads them into captivity twice. And so when they were able to come back to the land, part of the reason was God says, okay, let's start over. Let's refocus this relationship. And here's the law, and this is what we'll do. So when you think of Saul, who was really committed to what he believed to be true, his passion, the actions were misplaced, but the passion makes perfect sense. He wanted to do what he thought was keeping the Hebrews from falling under God's judgment again. And I use this illustration. If someone walked in that door on a Sunday morning, walks right here, and then he goes, hey, I'm Jesus. There's not a person in this church that isn't going to go, what? Because we all know, and I use the example of David Koresh. The reason I knew David Koresh wasn't Jesus, he had glasses. Because my Jesus don't need glasses. I mean, I know that's ridiculous and petty and childish, but God don't need glasses. That, and he was just kind of anyway. So I wanted to give you that nugget. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything extra. Think about Saul. And before you just hate him till you love him. When you look at Saul, where he is, what his motivations were, what his understanding were, what his social gatherings were, we can have empathy for him. Especially if you've lost anything in your life due to your pursuit of Jesus. And let me also say this. Some of the same struggles, not in a faith-based way, but in other ways that Saul wrestled with, the world outside that window wrestles with. Because the world, a lot of the world looks at the church with a lot of differing ideas. What are some of the ideas the world thinks the church is? And Stitch, the way this works, it's Pavlovian. You respond, you get snacks. And this week, Ronnie, you get a choice. Yes, I had to confess this earlier because I didn't want people thinking I was nicer than I am. I didn't go out and buy these. I forgot to get Smarties, and I had to bring in my private stock. So, yeah, this has been in there since pre-COVID Halloween. Try to clear out some of the back stock. But what are some of the opinions, ideas, or feelings the world looks at the church with? They want my money. All right, M&M's, plain or peanut, or Snickers? A plain. Ronnie, that doesn't surprise me at all. Just a plain, straight guy. Yeah, Ronnie, the world thinks God needs their money. Well, God owns a cattle on 1,000 hills. God created it. God is not broke. You know why? Because money in God's economy has no role anyway. God doesn't, what's that? Judgmental. And sometimes we are. Which one would you like, good sir? All right. Now, these don't throw as well, so you're going to have to duck and dodge. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Protect the baby. Yeah, judgmental. And the truth is, sometimes we are. Sometimes we judge those in the family, and if we're not careful, we're pretty easy to judge those outside the family. So, yeah. Hypocrites. Yeah. The tongue of the shoe and the tongue of the mouth don't always meet up. Which one you want? Man, this is going to be really tough right here. Well, I got 2 babies. Oh, that's short. That's short. Well, yeah. Well, I don't know if it's because my hip isn't hurting as much now. I've noticed in my shoulders. So the thing, that's not really where I wanted to go. But what I wanted to give us is this. As Christians, don't fall into the idea that the world owes you an audience. And understand, you may not agree with what they perceive, But be patient. And try to be understanding, because the world is a lost place. And depending on where you grew up, with who you grew up, the experiences of growing up, it could be a tough thing. So, all right, enough about that. That's free. That's extra. Okay, who could tell me just the title of Sunday's message? Just the title. So I just want you to know this will be my last Wednesday. Yeah. Well, I could ask you the 4 points, but I don't think you're going to get that if you don't remember the title. Huh? Well, now your bride would have them in her notes. If and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. So we talked about the 4 musts of being a godly friend. So let me tell you what happened to me last night. I got invited to dinner and... Huh? That is the title. The 4 musts of a godly friend. So last night I got invited to Alejandro's and went. And your bride looks at... Have you been there? Oh, okay. Well, you looked at him like, have you been there? So, yeah. So after dinner, my bride and my sister dragged me across the street to the bakery called Sweet Face. Perhaps you know. And I walk in there, and I gained 3 pounds at first whiff. And I'm scanning the box of this, that, and the other, and I'm making the room. And then sitting right here, there's a little round table where there's 2 people sitting there who happen to be female. And my radar goes up, ding, ding, ding. They are LDS missionaries. I don't know, because they were females. I don't know if the females are called elders. I don't think so. And let me just say, I always enjoy a conversation with Mormon missionaries. Let me begin by saying this. I have the utmost respect for those 2 young ladies. They are and will give 2 years, 18 to 20 of their lives, to go serve wherever the church sends them, at their family's expense. So I see them and I'm like, here we go. And I said, ladies, I see your LDS missionaries. And they, oh, yeah. They've got their Book of Mormon out. Listen, if we just carried Bibles like they carry a Book of Mormon. And I said, well, where are you ladies from? And they smile and they go, well, where do you think we're from? And I said, well, I would say Utah, but that would be me pigeonholing you. And she got smiles. She goes, yeah, we're from Utah. So we get to talking, and right out of the chute, hey, would you ever be interested in a Bible study? And I said, well, I study the Bible. And so we're, and then they invite me to church. And I'm like, have you ever read the Book of Mormon? I said, well, actually, my aunt and uncle are LDS. And in my Book of Mormon, I have my aunt's testimony written in it. So now I know their heads are spinning. Because you don't write your testimony in that but one of 2 reasons. Either I am, or my aunt wants me to be. That's the only 2 reasons. I said, yes, actually, I've not only read the Book of Mormon, but I've read the D&C and the Pearl of Great Price. Now they realize they're not dealing with a novice. They said, so where is it you live? I said, well, I live in Greenville, but I sleep in Caddo. And they said, well, listen, if you ever need any help around your house, lawn mowed or something like that, we'd love to come and serve you. And then, we're getting wrapped up, and before I leave, they give me this with their contact information on it. In less than 15 minutes, those girls gave me 4 invitations. Now, their doctrine is but their process. I mean, they are, very sincere. So, and I told them, I said, hey, I just want you to know, I'm not LDS. And now the one thing that really made them kind of wonder, because I didn't think about it until afterwards, I was wearing my For the City shirt. Well, but the scripture's on the back, so they know I'm somewhere around this Jesus thing. But they didn't ask me, so what is it you do for a living? So anyway, well, hey. So I say that to say this. There's 4 keys to being a godly friend, and these young ladies were exercising some really strong stuff. Now, the thing about it is this, is their doctrine wrong? It couldn't be more wrong. Are their motivations good? I think so. They absolutely believe. They're willing to give 2 years. Now, young parents, let me ask you, what would it take to send your 2 boys somewhere in the world for 2 years, and you get to pay for the privilege? Now, they've really loosened up over there at the LDS, because I said, well, when my cousin did his mission, he only got to call home on Christmas and Mother's Day. And that's true. They go, oh, well, no, we get to call home every Sunday. I said, man, you guys are just falling apart. But think about this. What are some of the requirements that you have for someone being a friend to you? What are some of the requirements that you have? And while you're thinking about it, I'm going to step aside and ask a question. Gay, was that you in the picture on Facebook today from the hospital? It was a surgical room, and they were talking about getting things ready for surgery and stuff. Was that? Okay, well, your image could be used without your permission. Okay, I'm back. What are some of the requirements for you, someone to be your friend? Loyal. Which one you want? Well, you're on the kid. Which one you want? All right, Ronnie. This is for Jeffrey. Oh, man, I'm terrible. Loyal. What else? Honest. Which one you want? Peanut. Woof, man. We're going to run into a shortage. And I obviously have to put this away for the kids come in because there we go. Oh, anybody else? Trustworthy. Which one do you want? There you go. Right on. Well, anybody else have something profoundly different? Patient. Yeah. Which one do you want, ma'am? You have plain, peanut, and Snickers. M&M's. Okay, now I know. Listen, I always knew this church was a little nutty. Oh, I'm getting warm now. That was receiver's fault right there. Okay, so we all agree that there are certain requirements, expectations for being a friend. Now, let me ask you this question. Do you have differing levels of friendship? Oh, we absolutely do. We absolutely do. Do you have a ride or die friend? I mean, and that's, the ride or die, man, that's the person who knows where the skeletons are. That's the person that you may not always call them, but when you call them, they answer. You don't get to ride or die status overnight, do you? It takes time. It takes effort. It takes consistency and loyalty and patience and all those things. And so to differing levels of friendship, and just because all of your friends aren't ride and die, doesn't mean they're not your friend, and it doesn't mean you're not their friend. It just means that you have differing levels of friendship. I read an article some time ago. Actually, it was quite a few years ago. That was pretty funny on Facebook. It says, if my pastor says some time ago, it could be 5 minutes or 5 years. That's true. But I read an article one time that if you have as many as 6 ride or die friends in your life total, you've done well. They're just that rare, right? So here's the question: you're slow to work to that, yes? How quickly can you lose it? Minutes? Could be. Wrong post. All right, you'd separate for, yeah, Ronnie's safe for the wrong post on Facebook. It takes this to earn it, and so is everyone in agreement it can be lost like that? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong, but should we be a little cautious about that? Because as we look at the must of being a godly friend, one of them is to be loyal to them. You must, I'm sorry, let me go down. I skipped all the way down to number 4. You must not waver in your support. Now that's tough. Now, is there a transgression unto separation? There absolutely is. Far too many times believers mistake their role in friendships and relationships. God never called you to be a doormat. God never called you to be abused or to be taken advantage of. That being said, if we as Christians, especially to a non-saved individual, hope to influence them for Christ, guess what? It's going to take time. You know, it takes time and effort and those sort of things. And so if you remember, here's Saul, and he has this amazing transformation, and now he gets sat right next to a guy named Barnabas, who was the absolute perfect person for him to be next to, the encourager, the man everyone trusted, the man that gets invited to all the parties, Barnabas. Saul could not have been partnered with someone better than Barnabas. So let me ask you this. We know who Saul was. We know who Paul was. Would you say that the transformation from one to the other is an act of God? I so love it. I have trained you so much to yeah. Yes. Yes. Huh? Well, I didn't call on anyone by specific.
You're trying to set the whole group up. Yeah, I see how this is working.
Do you remember what I said Sunday? Is God calls us to love and to serve and to be a witness. But the change part is his business. I think was it in Sunday school, Ronnie? I think you said you can't get them more lost.
That's exactly right. That's what
Yeah. So as believers, one of the greatest fears I've ever heard people mention is, well, I'm afraid I'll say the wrong thing. And what? Make them more lost? Can you say the wrong thing? Well, yeah, you can, but it's not like, you know. And so when we look at Saul and we see what happens, it's a God-sized thing. But we're going to see that God brought alongside his thing other people. Saul really needed and found godly friends. Because you remember, everyone he left in Jerusalem, what? They felt the same way, they thought the same way, they believed the same way, they acted the same way, yada, 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 yada. So Saul had to find what? A new pack, a new group. Well, yeah, when he flipped the script.
some of them said they weren't going to sleep or eat until he was dead.
That's right. Now, what's interesting here is I love this account because God singled Saul out. Now, we're not going to get into Calvinism, but one of the 5 points of Calvinism is this: irresistible grace. You know what that means? Anybody? Oh, Brian's shaking his head. Do Brian know?
Irresistible grace. You were predestined and you couldn't refuse the Lord in his grace.
Okay, so you had to put the predestined on there, see? He can't take the 5 individually. He's got to package them. Irresistible grace means this: that when grace is expressed to you, you have no choice but to receive it. Now, that's one of the points that I wrestle with. Because like I said, in my lifetime, before I met Christ on his terms, I was close enough to understand my lostness. And I walked away. Was that irresistible grace? But when you consciously know you're saying no, that's a very bad place to be. And so what we see here is with Saul, when we read it, was this. Was basically God had said, okay, that's enough. It's time. I'm going to reach down and I'm going to cull you out. And oh, by the way, I'm going to show you what this is going to cost you. Because what? Ministry is always convenient. Yeah, absolutely. So there was a time, there was a place, and there was a purpose stated in this encounter. What does that mean to us? Well, can I say this? God is sovereign, and God has a plan, and God is always on time. I thank God that I had 22 years to get to this encounter over there. It takes my breath away. It really does. Because I could have died in my sins, and you know what? I deserved it. I would have deserved it. But God had a time, God had a place, and God had a purpose. Because I promise you, no one goes, oh yeah, that Jimmy, that is preacher material if there ever was. I really think at one time or another, my parents may have thought, that's jail material right there if there ever was.
You probably ought to go into detail, tell a few of them some stories, and then let them decide.
We got new people, Ronnie. I don't want to run them off before they get seated in. With the irresistible grace, there is no time limit.
So, grace was presented to you. It just took you 20 years to accept that.
How easy believism is that? Oh yeah, God makes the offer. He just lets you set your own time to accept it. You RSVP when you want to. Well, let me just say this. God's grace is always sufficient and always available. But we need to be very careful to think we get to choose. Anytime. I've had so many people, hey, I'm going to wait till I get older. Hey, I'm going to wait, I'm young, man. I want to live. When I saw Jesus for who he is, it was crystal clear that the world I thought I had by the tail had me by the tail. And so we see that Jesus met him at a time and a place and a purpose just for fun, and we won't stay here long. Could Paul have declined the invitation? Not with what he saw. Calvinist? He couldn't say no. You think he could? We have free will. Okay. I'm not telling you there's an answer. I just like to stir the pot and cause you to think. Did Saul... I think that you can, yes. I agree with you. When you meet Jesus on his terms, I've said it before, I'll say it now, and I'll say it to the last day of my earthly life. If the Bible is not true and Jesus is dead, where else will I go? What else do I have? I've had what the world had to offer. I was doing it pretty good. And I could sit in a room full of people and be desperately alone. But since I met Jesus on his terms, everything's different.
What Jesus told Paul, Jesus didn't tell him your mind. He said, why are you persecuting me?
Yeah.
He said, go to the house on the
Right. Yeah, he didn't call him his. But what's so amazing is this. Can you imagine what Saul's brain was doing for those 3 days? Because Saul saw Jesus for who he really was. And just for the fun of it, understand that one of the reasons Paul can be called an apostle is because he saw the risen Jesus. This is one of the qualifiers that calls him an apostle. But can you imagine if everything in your life of the last few years now has been completely washed away? This man that you hate, this movement that you hate, this righteous anger that you have now goes. But the promises of Scripture are being fulfilled in front of your eyes that happen to be blind right now. I absolutely agree with you, Jeff. I don't know how you can see a full-on Jesus for who he is and walk away. I could cry right now just thinking about it. We were talking today. Actually, I was speaking with your bride, Jeff, and we were talking, and Jeff has started a movement of they're not CAT scans, they're heart scans. Heart scans. What is it? Okay, heart scans. Jeff has started a movement, and how did he do it? He had a heart attack. Scary. Praise God for what it wasn't. But you know the difference between having Jesus in your life and not? Is the most scary things in your life have a value. Here Jeff goes, well, now wait a minute. How can God use this? Well, guess what? I'm going to have to cough up $75 because I can't be left out. And if you don't know what we're talking about, you can go to the hospital, and for $75, they're going to scan your heart, and they're going to tell you whether you need to see a cardiologist. And I'm not going to share it because I don't know if it's been shared, but I can tell you someone really close to us went, and guess what? They're going to get seen because they really needed to get seen. And if it... Is it okay? Okay. So Brother Scott goes because I think his wife, didn't you lead him? Did you go first? Okay. Because I can hear Gay going, hey, don't be a coward. Look, I'm doing it. Well, Scott goes in, he has the scan, and guess what? It's not bad. It's real bad. Friday. So he's going to the cath lab Friday, and they're going to evaluate somewhere inside that scale of what gets done. Okay. But you know what? The odds of him just falling out on the floor have just gone way down. Why? Because when Jesus is in your life, even the scariest things have a value to them. Because the Scripture says what? All things can work for good. Not all things are good. I'm going to tell you because you're here. Is that the kids? Just one? Okay, because I'm running out of time. Ooh, yeah, I really am. I'm going to tell you because you're here. We're starting a new sermon series this Sunday. And the prosperity theologians are going to hate me for this one. Ready? John the Baptist, a faith worth losing your head over. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be here Sunday. See, the beautiful thing is this, is God has a sovereignty over our lives. They're here. We're not just bouncing down the road. And I'm so thankful. And we need godly friends, and we need to be godly friends. I didn't get as far as I might just have to bring it back next week. To our friends who are with us on the internet, thank you for being here. We're really glad. We're about to end this if it hasn't already. No, we're still live. We love you guys. Jason, New Mexico, good to see you.